I'm Zaria, Ddamulira Nanyonga, and I'm in charge of legal and human rights and URI Great Lakes.
I heard a rumor that you're a lawyer. Is that true?
It's very true.
Tell me about that.
Yes, I'm a lawyer by profession, and I completed my degree in 2003. But according to our laws and policies here, after the law degree in Nakyejwe, I had to go to Law Development Center, where we learn how to practice law and how to go about our legal practice, basically. Because at the university, we study more of the theory bit of it. So you have to go to Law Development Center to deal with the practical aspect of it. So I completed Law Development Center in 2004. Yes, then worked with also a couple of other non-government organizations before joining URI in 2012.
February? Tell me about you being May.
Yes, my name is Nakyejwe. I'm a Cooperation Circle Liaisons Officer for the United Religions Initiative. In other words, we locally call it the Membership Liaisons Officer, because sometimes people might not perceive what Cooperation Circle is all about until we are able to explain it. My role entails being in constant conversation with our groups within the Great Lakes region, offering technical support to them, coordinating their work, and mainly about getting their stories as they happen on the ground, supporting them on how to reflect the stories, basically around that, and any other support that could
So
be.
what is a cooperation circle?
A cooperation circle are the different groups of the United Religion Initiative that operate in their own prime in the different social areas that they work in, doing different kinds of work. They could be peace-related causes, they could be environmental, they could be in health, anything that affects the communities in which they work. Yes, and these so many groups coming together in the network of URI. So cooperation is in the essence of us coming together, joining hands as you see the logo, cooperating for social causes.
Now, one of those causes that is big here or is important here in the Great Lakes region is human rights. Tell me about this community and how important human rights is here.
Yes, you're very right. Human rights is a very key aspect here in Uganda, given the political situation around here, given the service delivery provision around here. It's really very key at this point in time, and basically, I think it's very cross-cutting in most of our CC work. You find that most of them are addressing issues that are related to human rights. Some of them are dealing with issues of health. Others are dealing with issues of peace. Others are dealing with issues of health. Others are dealing with issues of that are related to economic aspects, livelihoods. So it's really a very key aspect when it comes to even our cooperation circles and the work that we do as URI. And we are glad to at least share that even the initiatives they're doing, we feel the impact that most of them of the work and the services they are giving to the communities is.
And maybe to add on Zaria's aspect of the rights, this very community where we are at, it's called the northern part of Uganda. As we've been sharing on the journey, they went through a long war of close to 2 decades, and they had to, be evacuated. They had to leave their settlements. So upon their return after that 2 decades, they found so many issues that had gone, into confusion. Land was not there anymore. You could not trace, your area of settlement, of abode. You could not, so many things. They had to survive as human beings, and so many other health-related causes. People had to seek compensation from the government, and all of that issues that are being, being acted upon regarding rights of different sorts.
Actually, the land aspect was a major one, and it still continues. Like May has pointed out, it is a key aspect that really affected the people in this region. And from 2012 to 2014, we ran a program together with the Acholi Religious Leaders Peace Initiative, where we tried to carry out dialogues, because when people came back from the camps, the safe places where they used to stay, while the rebels were still around here, they found when they couldn't trace their boundaries, then there are those who were interfering with other people's land. So we ran that program, and we did a couple of dialogues here and there. Of course, it's a big area, and the impact was big, but at least we tried as much as possible to also make a contribution together with the Acholi Religious Peace Initiative. But also, we would have loved to continue that partnership we had, but resources also were an issue, so we had somehow to end that program and let LP continue with the process. But that is the contribution we made at that point. But the situation is still ongoing. People are still into land conflicts. People are still into fights over land, together with other problems that affected them during and after the war. So basically,
in a place like this, where there has been enormous conflict, how does reconciliation play out in a cooperation circle? Cooperation circle, you have to have multiple religious entities. Weren't those religious entities in conflict at some point? How do you get them to sit together, be together, and not only that, have a common goal together? How does that work?
okay, as URI, our starting point is that let's put our religious issues we differ, that make our religions differ, and address a common cause. So that's our starting point, and we're very, very happy when AOP came up with that arrangement where the different religions came together, religious leaders came together to address the crisis, but also the aftermath of the crisis. So as URI, that's basically our starting point, to make people realize that they shouldn't look at those aspects that divide them, or that they don't agree with religious-wise, and address issues that affect all of them. Because when this crisis came, it didn't discriminate between Catholics, between Muslims, between Anglicans, the Orthodox. It did not. So basically, that is where we start from, and we are happy that even the religious leaders themselves, even the communities themselves, they easily appreciate that and look beyond those religious beliefs and religious practices that separate them, and address a common cause that they have to encounter, because it doesn't discriminate according to religion or according to even tribe, because we have different tribes all over the country. But when our cooperation circles are trying to address different issues, they look beyond now those factors and address. Recently, or several years back, HIV was a challenge all over the country, but you would see different cooperation circles also addressing that. So we try to make them appreciate that they need to look beyond those factors that separate them religious-wise and address a common cause.
There is also a moving story in this very area where we are. The bishops we will have a conversation with tomorrow. At the time of the conflict, this 20 decades long conflict, it had gone to a level that there was a lot of cutting of lips of the daughters, the sons and daughters of the land, abduction of children and so whatnot. So they had to mobilize the community. And what we are talking about are these top, the bishops, the district qadis, the head of the Muslim community and others, the 70 days and Orthodox and whatnot. They had to bring the people together, and they said that if we want to put an end to this confusion, this inhuman treatment, we are going to sleep on the streets for as long as it will take us until the world listens to us. And it had great impact that, there was cessation, at least a breather for the community to realize that there can be peace. So people were touched, the lay people, seeing a full bishop sleeping on the streets, day 1, day 2, day 3, and, it had to move people, and they had to lay down the tools at least for a while, and as the peace process was, gaining momentum at that time.
So what was the nature of the conflict that she's talking about? What was causing the violence? What was going on in people's heads?
You mean the LRA conflict? Basically, this was a rebel group, which felt also it had its own cause, and some of the actually one school of thought. For us, we try to appreciate the conflict from the outside because this was a no-go area here. We only started coming in to now try to address the effects. But one school of thought shares that it was it even had a religious connection, where they would even tell the rebels that when you smear yourself with certain herbs, the bullets won't get you. Those are some of the things they used to tell people they abducted. That when you smear yourself with such and such, the bullets won't get you because there's that spiritual connection to them and whatnot. But another also school of thought was that there was that dissatisfaction of people of this region being left out economically, politically. So Konyi and his counterparts felt that they had a just cause to fight the government. But unfortunately, as he thought that he was fighting the government, he was affecting his own people, because the people he cut the lips, the people he cut the legs, the people he tortured, did so many bad things, making sons sleep on their mothers, different harsh and inhuman acts. He felt that he was fighting a cause, but he was making his own people suffer. And even when he was eliminated, still the effects were affecting his own people. So basically, those are the schools of thought that came up during the war. Partly probably political, but also there was that also religious attachment connection that another school of thought was giving. So that was Konyi and his team. And unfortunately, a lot of abductions, a lot of family disconnections were made in the process, and a lot of this. It was really a very unfortunate situation, which went on and on for so long, because several peace talks went on between Konyi and the government, and unfortunately also our religious people, some of whom we are going to meet tomorrow, like May said, had to intervene to see that there was peace restored in this area. So we are happy that the people in the north now are settling in slowly by slowly. The effects are still on, and probably they will continue for a while, because even the war took some good years, but we are happy that at least they are where they are at right now. Yes.
So tell me,
Our comments, the first half of it, Victor was in the doorway behind.
oh, that's right.
Noticed that he was in there and sort of startled him like that.
That's why we do 4K.
Okay.
One of the cooperation circles that you work with here, that I believe is called Golden Women. Tell me about them.
The Golden Women's Vision in Uganda is composed of women that Zaria has been talking about that had immense effect of the war. The effect of the war. They suffered rape during abduction. Many of them were abducted as young as 10 years or even much younger, and and above. And these were abducted against their will. They could wreck a community, an entire village, and just sweep everyone around and take them. So they were taken as wives to the rebels. They had to do all sorts of evil, commit all evil against their own relatives, against their own family members, against their own community members. So they come after the war.
1 second, it's just that truck's making noise.
Okay, sorry. It was such a confusing and disheartening situation when the rebels would come and ransack a community. They would just do indiscriminate abduction, take anyone they would come across. So you would find yourselves, being taken up in a camp and made you do all obscenities that you can imagine. So you would find a son being made to, to have intercourse with the mother and the sister and whatnot. So the women we are to meet tomorrow are women who are wives to these rebels, taken at a very tender age. They come out of the war.
I'm sorry. So May was telling me what these young girls went through. Now they've come back and they have formed a cooperation circle. Tell me about that.
Yes, when they came back, like any group, there are always team leaders. There was a group of women. Incidentally, there are also men in that organization who are working to help these women. So they came back, and May, do you recall the year? I don't recall exactly which year when they formed themselves into a cooperation circle to help many of these women. Some of them former abductees, others were facing the effects of the war. Not former abductees, but also they were caught up in the middle of the war, and so they are trying to make them recover from these effects. They do a couple of initiatives, including improving their livelihoods. Then also they provide the psychosocial support to them. You're going to meet them tomorrow. They'll share their story, but it's a really very interesting group, I must say. And we really find them really courageous, because when they tell their stories, some of them break down into tears. But we appreciate that they are able to open up and share their stories to the wider community, because that's how they can stay strong, but also get more support in whichever form. So we find them really courageous that they do that.
Thank you very much.